It's a beautiful day and you're a beautiful princess.
Hey, you're stealing my thunder. Before we started recording, I was singing...
That's true. You were.
Love to You.
That's true. That's probably why I was inspired to sing back to you.
I love that. I love just to break out in song for no reason.
Oh, it's the best. I feel bad for my future children already because everything is going to get sung to them. If it's anything like my dogs. I'm like,
I
it's
think
time
that's
for
so
food.
Nice.
Oh,
No.
Speaking of which, shout out to, oh my God, I wish I knew her name right now. Shout out to the Brain Candy Brainiac who was listening to us, and the song that we sing for Sigmund and Bo when we would take them to Camp Opie.
Yeah.
She was inspired by the lyrics and threw a birthday party for her golden retriever, who is adorable, by the way. And she made little treat bags for all of the dogs who came to the birthday party. And on the bag was a little card that said, "Sniffin' butts and meatin' mutts." Is that not the cutest thing you've ever heard or ever seen in your whole life?
I forgot that was a lyric. Can you sing it again?
I was like, that is so cute. She said it.
You need to refresh our listeners' memory of that song. Hit it.
How
Sniffing
butts and meeting mutts. We're having a good time at Splash. Except we don't go to Splash anymore.
That's right. I love that it's called Splash.
Her name's Digital Red X. Shout out to Digital Red X. And her golden retriever, Juniper Beatrice.
Wow, so formal.
Oh, and you should see the photo of this dog looking not too happy about her birthday hat is probably the cutest darn thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Look.
Oh my, that's so cute. I love it.
Oh, God, it's so precious.
We have the best listeners.
I know. And Landon was so happy that he inspired it's so great. We'll have to repost that for her.
Landon does have a gift for creative limericks and
no joke. I mean, we have him to thank for the title of our podcast.
I know. I think about it
what
a
about
lot.
Brain Candy? Is that taken? I was like, no, it's not.
It was perfect.
He's like, you need something that's like brainy, but also like it's like candy,
sweet.
It's like, what about Brain Candy?
I love how we're reminiscing about the genesis of Brain Candy today.
Brain Candy origins.
On episode 307.
Yes.
It's so good to be here with you.
Oh, so good. Suze,
yes.
So speaking of, episodes that we have done, remember back to our BDE episodes?
Of course.
As, we often mention, Pete Davidson.
Yes.
And his big
At
swinging
it again.
thing. No joke! Kate Beckinsale!
I know.
What?
I think that it's beyond just a big dick now.
It's got to be. That's what, I said this morning, I opened up my news and I saw that and I was like, Landon. He's with Kate Beckinsale. And Landon's like, I know. And I was like, what is he, what's the deal?
I think he has it all.
Man.
Because he's funny.
Yeah.
And he is cute, although he makes himself look less cute on purpose, weirdly.
Yeah. What's that
about? I don't get that scene.
I don't know.
Given that I'm working hours a day to prevent looking like garbage.
Oh my gosh. Maybe he's like, they'll be fawning over me. I got to do something to make myself less attractive. All the women want me. And
it's not working.
25. Mm-hmm. I didn't know he was so young.
Yeah, that's a good point. And she's 40s?
She's 45.
Good for her.
Yeah.
She's getting that young dick.
Yes. Get after it, girl.
I'm not really into young dick myself, but I respect a woman who is.
I've never had it.
No, that's not for me.
I know.
Even when I was young, I didn't have young dick.
Here's the deal. Me neither. I'm not in the mood to teach anybody anything.
I'm not in the
mood. Do your own homework. I'm not ready. I provide psychoeducation pretty much all hours of the day for anybody who cares to listen, and even people who don't. And so that's the one place where I don't want to be given any lessons.
Yeah, we're booked solid over here. Jeez.
Yep.
Okay, wait. So, unless you had more to say about Kate Beckinsale,
no.
I have to talk about this, and you're going to be like, this is ridiculous, and we need a time machine to help Susie get her life together. But You know how I grew up in a fundamentalist home, and so I missed out on years of pop culture, and only when I got older did I kind of like try to catch up on, everything I missed during like the 80s when normal kids would be like learning about life, and I was just like singing Jesus
Having
songs.
Halloween parties.
Yeah, and I was at the harvest party learning about how the world is going to end any minute. And so as a result, I haven't seen a lot of the movies that you people idolize.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
I saw one on Friday last week that like blew my mind, and it's so embarrassing because you've all seen it and told me it's great. But I always thought, how good could it be?
Oh,
Karate Kid is fantastic.
Oh, Karate Kid! Suze, you have to send a text message to Kenny Santucci.
Oh my God, I thought of him the whole time.
It's his favorite movie of all time.
Well, he is Ralph Macchio.
I know.
I didn't know it was his favorite movie.
Well, actually, I don't even know that, but I'm like 99% sure it is. Either that or he just is Ralph Macchio.
Tell me how good it is.
Well, I don't know. I just, you know what? That makes me think that I have maybe forgotten how good it is because I haven't seen it since I was much younger.
Okay. I think
and maybe
you might
like
want to
watch it through a different set of eyes as an adult,
Well, I thought it was really, like I was on the edge of my seat. Like,
so he's like, sweep the leg, Johnny.
I just felt like he was like, I think I'm glad I waited until I was a mom too, because I was like imagining that it was my son getting beat up. And I was like, oh my God, is he okay? Sarah, I'm serious.
Suze, what other movies have you not seen?
Okay, I have not seen...
Have you seen The Princess Bride?
I've probably seen parts of it.
No, it took you too long to answer. You need to see that.
Okay, Jaws.
Oh, that's an amazing movie. But be prepared to be scared even in swimming pools.
Footloose.
Oh my! Now I'm actually upset. No, Suze, that's the best one.
I've heard it's so good.
I'm ready to dance right now thinking about it. Not gonna cut. Oh my God, and the soundtrack is so good, and Sarah Jessica Parker's in it.
Yeah, I've heard good things for 30 years.
And Suze, it's about a fundamentalist, like Baptist can't dance family who's like, nope, no fun, no dancing, definitely having harvest
here,
parties.
Right? Yeah. I was living Footloose. I didn't need to see it.
Yeah, but you need to.
Now I do. I'm going to make a whole list.
I can't. If you thought The Karate Kid was good, I cannot wait till you watch Footloose.
This will blow your mind.
Me. Woo.
I haven't seen Dirty Dancing.
Oh my God! This is like, okay, that is a back-to-back one. Well, this is an evening now. Cancel our plans. Clear the schedule. We're watching movies.
And like, you know how when you tell someone you haven't seen a film that everyone's seen, they all react like you're doing?
Yeah.
And so there's almost like this pushback of like, how good could it be? It's not that good.
This is my argument for steak at restaurants.
Yeah, you're wrong too about that.
Or I'm like, well, it's been so long, I just don't do it because how good could it be?
Exactly. Well, on behalf of the Karate Kid, steak is fantastic at restaurants.
So funny.
So I need Brainiacs to make like a list of all these films that I need to see.
Absolutely. And I bet I haven't seen a lot of them on there too. I remember, it's funny with Dirty Dancing, and I react like that only because I also waited a million years to see that. I remember the night I watched Dirty Dancing for the very first time. Let me tell you the story. So Landon and I had so Landon and I were together for like 2 years, and then we decided to move in together. And that lasted for all of about 2 months before I was like, I do not like this. I want my own place back. And so I decided to move out. And so I got myself an apartment, and I was like in the process of moving. And then we ended up breaking up. And he was like, this blah, blah, blah. Because, me moving out, pretty much the first step towards us breaking up. And don't worry, guys. We're together today. We're married. Yeah, happy ending. So, spoiler alert. But... okay, so he breaks up with me. We break up, whatevs. And I, have my apartment but there's no electricity turned on, no nothing. And I was like so upset that night. I was like, I'm leaving. So I gather all my stuff in trash bags. I have all my clothes in trash bags. I think I left everything else there. Go to my new apartment with no electricity, no anything turned on yet. And so the only thing I could think to do is like, okay, well, I'll just charge my computer enough and I'll download a movie and I'll just watch a movie. So I go to a coffee shop that offers free Wi-Fi. I download Dirty Dancing because I had never seen it before. And I go back to my apartment that has no lights or anything. I make a bed out of the trash bags of clothes that I have.
Man.
I set up the show and I watched Dirty Dancing in candlelight, sleeping on bags of clothes, and bawled my frickin' eyes out.
You
because
did?
Yes, because, oh my God, it's so good.
Don't
and
tell
also,
me.
I had just been broken up with, Suze. I was heartbroken.
Oh,
and it was like
yeah.
the perfect movie to watch for that.
Oh my God.
It was great. It was actually a lovely evening.
Looking back.
But it was, oh my God. I remember that night like it was yesterday. Just me sleeping on piles of, because I'm like,
Sarah.
I am not staying there. I'm an independent woman. I don't need anyone. Which now I realize is not the right attitude to have, and it's important to have
Maybe
other
what
people
you
take care of
needed
you.
in your new apartment, though, was some new sheets from Brooklinen.
Then I wouldn't have had to sleep on
Yeah,
bags
you
of
would have been
trash.
comfortable.
I mean, it wasn't
Bags
trash;
of
it was my
trash.
clothes. But you know,
If you have an apartment or you just want an upgrade on your sheets and bedding, Brooklinen is the perfect option. You can go online and you skip the middleman, and so you get these luxury 5-star hotel sheets, you know, the ones that you don't ever want to get out of, but for a fraction of the price. And they have 1 million 5-star reviews, so you don't have to take my word for it. And you can mix and match patterns. You can buy them like separate, so you don't have to buy that whole set. Brooklinen sheets are so soft, and they get softer the more you wash them too. I just got a new set for my son's bed. He loves them. Our Brooklinen sheets are the best, most comfortable sheets we've ever slept on. And now it's the time for you to get an upgrade. Brooklinen.com is giving an exclusive offer just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order and free shipping when you use promo code BRAIN at brooklinen.com. Brooklinen is so confident in their product that all their sheets, comforters, and towels come with a lifetime warranty. The only way to get 10% off your first order and free shipping is to use promo code BRAIN at brooklinen.com. That's BROOKLINEN.com. Promo code BRAIN. They're the best sheets ever. I could use some new towels, come to think of it.
I could use some new sheets to come to think of it.
Really?
Yeah,
What are you waiting for?
I don't know. I should get some.
Are you one of those people that does like different colors of bedding
Yes.
for like the different time of year?
Yeah, but I only have 2 sets, and one of them's getting a little, well, since we
Okay.
started letting the dogs on the bed.
You know what? I'm all for that.
Me too. Who am I
I
kidding?
know I shouldn't say that. People get mad.
I love it. Why do people get mad?
I don't know, but people have really strong opinions about children and pets in beds.
Well, I mean, I can sort of understand the children one because at a certain age, but then that's a cultural thing too because some people have their kids in bed till they're, old. The only thing is that it affects the marital relationship.
Yeah. Like if you never get alone time in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
but like, I'm always glad when Lincoln wants to snuggle.
Yeah, who wouldn't be?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I'm like, please snuggle me. What's that chemical that gets released when you get hugged?
Oxytocin.
Yeah, man. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I
So
need
good.
that.
It also happens when you pet dogs. So we're both getting it.
Really?
Yep.
What about cats?
Oh, good question. That is
Probably.
Googleable. I'm going to need to look that up.
It's Googleable.
Oh, my gosh.
We'll allow
Does
it.
petting cats. Yeah.
While you look that
Anyway.
up, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Okay. There was a little video clip that kind of resurfaced the other day, and it was of Maya Angelou. And she was, gosh, I forget what talk show she was on, but one of the audience members stood up and said, I have a question. I was wondering what Maya would say about such and such. And Maya was like, first of all, darling, you need to call me Miss Maya.
Ooh.
I am, 60 whatever, and you're a young thing, and you haven't earned the right to whatever. And so it kind of went viral, and people were debating whether this is like cool to do or not. And I wanted to know what your opinion is.
I kind of like that. I think that's important. And I think especially it would make sense. Like if was the woman white?
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, okay.
She was sort of culturally ambiguous or ethnically ambiguous.
Well, I mean, I can just imagine that if you're an individual who has not received the respect that any human being should get throughout your life because of you name it, a million different things, then I think it's important to fight back in, it's like anything. You almost have to go to the extreme to just get what is deserved. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I do know what you mean. Like when I first heard it, I bristled and was like, oh, geez. Because I always hated when like Bill Cosby would insist on making people call him Dr. Cosby, even though it's an honorary doctorate. And she did the same thing. And I had read articles where they were like, she has earned the right to be known as Dr. Angelou, even if it's an honorary doctorate, and you need to stop like questioning like women of color in particular. So I get what you're saying along those lines, right?
Yeah. And I think it's setting a good example for, I think less about the person, like her teaching a lesson to the person who's talking, and more to the people who are watching, who are younger, and then look at her and go, you know what? I deserve that kind of respect too. And I'm going to make sure that people, because it's kind of like saying people will only respect you as much as you respect yourself. And if you, or whatever it is, people only love you as much as you love yourself. And I think demanding, like, especially for somebody who has probably not, for many years probably did not receive any sort of respect or just was, what's the word I'm looking for?
Marginalized.
Yes, thank you. That is exactly the word I was looking for. Then that's deserving, and we should show respect like that. So, yeah.
I always tend to get over casual. In fact, the more formal something is, the more casual I become. It's almost like this weird defense mechanism. And
maybe it's like the attention breaker. Like you're looking to make people more comfortable.
Yeah, like I hate formality. I hate being uptight. And so when she responds that way, my instinct is to be like, okay, calm down. But that's because I'm not considering all the things you're talking about that make her need to do that. Yeah.
It's kind of like, you're told how we feel about guys saying you need to smile. And like one minute, you will fight back.
Yeah.
Like, here's why I don't, go into this whole lecture on it.
Yeah, good point.
And because we felt like that's somebody else who's telling us how we should feel about ourselves, what we should be like. And in a way, it's kind of like those similar feelings.
That is
like,
such a good point.
I'm not going to let somebody talk to me this way. No, I decide. And you respect me.
Right. Would you ever do that, though?
What? Tell somebody?
Like, yeah.
If I
kind of correct them?
Well,
publicly?
It would depend on what the subject is. Because if it were a subject that, like, I don't have any experience being marginalized in that same way. But I do have experience in people being insensitive to maybe issues regarding sexual abuse. So I think when things like that happen, I am quick to correct somebody. Because that's something I care about, something that affects me on like a deeper emotional level. And so if somebody said something like, well, what is it like for you to be a victim of da-da-da-da? And I'd be like, excuse me, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
And so that is where I would chime in. And I would probably, depending on how the conversation went before, you never know how she was treated in the green room. You never know what happened to her earlier that day. And maybe she had, received like 5 times where somebody like didn't recognize who she was and gave her like, those subtle racist kind of microaggressions. Yeah, she maybe received that, all morning. And then she's out here and then somebody's like that. And she's like, you know what? Come on. Because she's the person.
Let me ask you this, though. Is it the context that makes it that that's okay, in that if it were a white man, we would be like, he needs to calm down. If he had said that to a woman that asked the question.
Calm down. Because,
okay. So it's the context.
Because we get it. You have power. Like what this is a woman saying, I have not had access to it, and I deserve that, and so you're going to treat me to that. Like,
oh, okay. I liked it. I feel like we made progress on that topic.
I think so too. And look at how open-minded my co-host Susie is.
Oh my gosh, I totally am. Like,
yes,
and I try to be really honest on the show about blind spots that I've had, so that people see that we're all works in progress here. Like, I'm trying to get better.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
Oh, and every year there's something new where I was like, oh, well, that was definitely insensitive. Yep, definitely got that wrong. Like,
gosh, Sarah, I've been watching Golden Girls again. My God, that show is so wrong though. Like, cause it was a different time, and they say a lot of inappropriate jokes about like Jewish people and, and that was a progressive show at its time.
Yep.
But times change, and you got to roll with the punches.
I thought the same thing about Will and Grace. I was like, can't say that now. That was not allowed. And a lot of fat jokes, a lot of jokes about weight. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, that is totally like...
Well, this reminds me, though, that we had a conversation early on when we first started this show about fatbergs. Do you remember that? The piles of sewage that are like made up of baby wipes and all that stuff.
Yes.
So I need to give you an update on that, because I think we've been on the air so long that like I can actually update you like years later on something that we talked about. Yes. I will also update you on the fact that everybody should be wearing a bra that fits correctly, and most of you aren't.
Please. That's absolutely true.
Sarah,
I know this from experience. 32D over here, baby.
Third Love has a fit finder on their website. It's a fit finder quiz. So you just answer the questions, and they have bras that are designed with breast size and shape in mind that's perfect for everyone. They have more than 70 sizes of bras, way more than the other brands. And you can skip the trip to the mall or wherever you would normally buy stuff and just order online. They have a 100% fit guarantee, so you have 60 days to wear it and wash it and put it to the test. And if you don't love it, you can return it, and they'll wash it and donate it to a woman in need. And returns are free, and they're easy. And the clothing and the bras are very comfortable and soft, and you'll love them. Third Love knows there's a bra for everyone that's perfect. So right now they're offering our listeners 15% off your first order. Go to thirdlove.com/brain now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/brain for 15% off today. And I have to say, I will never buy another bra. They are my go-to now, and the only ones that I wear.
Love it.
Yeah. So what I want to tell you about fatbergs is that, remember when we talked about it originally, this was like in episode 5 or something. I was like, if it says flushable, I'm flushing it. Because a lot of these wipes say they're flushable. Well, after I heard from listeners after that episode aired, they were like, please don't. Like, the fatberg, it exists and it's terrible. And so I don't do it anymore.
Good.
And I was just looking because on Twitter, the fatberg was trending again. And for me, this is not an issue. I mean, of course, we can educate consumers and they can do what I did, where they're like, oh, you're not supposed to flush them, then I won't. But we also need to, like, do something about the fact that these companies put that they're flushable when they're not.
Yeah. It's just like the beads that are in the, the micro beads and stuff like that are like killing fish.
Well, so why doesn't this crap get done and legislated?
That's what needs to happen.
Like Big Toilet is being manipulating the system?
Yeah.
It makes me mad.
You should be mad. These are the kind of things like we have to, it starts with the plastic bags and, now we gotta, I don't know where to start with this stuff.
But I know I'm going to sign about everything.
I'm going to sign whatever I'm going to vote for it against it.
Yeah.
But
I just feel like this is one example of like a million ways that we feel helpless.
Well, this is what why we need people who are in politics and who are like, because I honestly don't know what the next step is.
Yeah.
But somebody does.
Right.
And people have to care more about the things that make us outraged, like the fatbergs, than about money in their pocket.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll write my senator.
Yeah. Call your local congressperson.
I do love my local congressperson. His name's Ted Lieu, and he's so awesome.
So great.
He's adorable. And he follows me on Twitter, and it's everything I can do to like not DM him and be like, I love you, thanks for being amazing. Which, as Sarah knows, is my signature move.
You should do that.
I know, I should.
And then you should be like, and also, how about them fatbergs? What are we going to do about that, buddy?
Well, you know what? It's weird. It's almost like when you know that your congressperson agrees with you, it almost encourages passivity.
Oh, I know what you mean. Because you're like, oh, yeah, they're already taking care of that. That's kind of how I felt. That's how I felt with the, the election and living in California. I was like, well, what can I do? Everybody, we know how people are going to vote, but then,
things went a different way.
Yeah.
But it wasn't California's,
right.
thing.
Right. But still important.
It speaks to what you're saying. What we're saying, though, is how, like, if you know that your state represents your views, then you almost feel like, okay, I'm all set. Mm-hmm. And so it can be encourage, like I said, passivity or just apathy or whatever.
Well, that's why you have to care about local politics.
Amen.
Because that is where it's really, really important. Because you can think, oh, well, California, yeah. But I was living in Orange County, where just until this year, Dana Rohrabacher, who was like a fuckhead, sorry, Linda, but actually not sorry, and he's now out, because people started going, oh God, I think I do need to vote for that. I think it does matter here, because they're the ones, the local ones, are the ones who are going to affect like those policy changes and things like that in your area.
Yes. Good
School
reminder.
Boards, yes, please do your research. Oh God, it's so important.
Can we talk about how? Have you read at all? I'm sure you saw that Andy Cohen has a son now. You saw that?
I did. Yeah.
And he did a post or two about how he's tired of being shamed already, like dad shamed. Like he'll post a picture and his dog will be in it and his baby, and they'll be like, "Your dog's too close to your baby," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, I saw the New York Times did an article about it, and I saw a lot of people covering this, and I thought, oh, okay, so now as soon as there's single dad, then everyone's like, well, stop being mean and dad shaming him. Meanwhile, every mom on social media knows what this is like.
Yeah, for anything. Doesn't matter. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, unsolicited opinions. I tagged you in a post recently about unsolicited opinions, or sent it to you.
Oh my gosh, you did?
Yeah, I sent it to you on Instagram about like why everybody should just can it.
Right, and they should.
But I mean, it was said much more eloquently and nicely, and so basically,
and that is the thing. Like, why are you people? I don't know who it is. Certainly not our listeners, but some people. Why are they even commenting?
I think about. And this is once again where Sarah, was like, oh, I got that wrong. And I apologized later. But when Cheyenne had her baby, she took this adorable picture where there was like her baby sleeping in the crib and, then the stuffed animal in there. And I was like right after I had my miscarriage and like all my motherly instincts were like, send this message. It says, make sure you take the stuffed animal out of there. And then afterwards I was like, that was, not.
Was it a comment or a private message?
A comment.
Okay.
And then, like, after, I think I deleted it, or underneath I wrote, like, you're doing everything right. Like, don't listen to me, or something like that. But, I realized that afterwards that I was like, ugh, that was not, you didn't need to say that. And she knows. And for goodness sakes, like, let the person mother their own child. And, but I know I could tell where it was coming from,
Okay.
It was like,
it was just good intentions.
Yeah. And then it was like, oh my God, I just lost a baby, so I want to make sure every other one stays healthy and living and, all that. But it was more my need, my feeling out of control, and then by try to feel in control by doing something like that. And so if you look at like where those comments come from, it speaks way more about the person who's making the comment than it does about the recipient.
Yeah, it's true. I just don't think like the New York Times would write an article if Chrissy Teigen were being mommy explained, because she does.
She is. Guaranteed she is. Mm-hmm. 100%. Oh, God, that is such... Ugh. That is so frustrating.
Like, I think it's good that they're bringing attention to it in general, but like, come on, man.
Yeah. Gosh.
But I do get annoyed when people comment stuff like that, because it's... I hear about this in the fat phobic arena where people pretend like, I'm just worried about your health. Right. And so they'll make comments about somebody's body. And it's like, I don't think that's actually
right.
Why
well,
you're
and
doing
also
it.
we can say the same thing, the same reason that I made that comment that was unnecessary is, maybe that person is feeling out of control about their own weight loss journey or their own relationship with food. So they are going to project by commenting on somebody else's, or they're going to try to feel better about their own, struggles by commenting on somebody else's.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, it really is that good old I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
I know, that's so hard, though.
Or I know you are, but what am I? Or whatever, one of those things. It works.
I'll tell you what else works. My Quip toothbrush.
Oh, Suze, as soon as Landon walked in the door from his trip, I was like, what'd you think of your toothbrush?
What did he think?
He loved it.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best toothbrush. It's such a convenient option. I mean, come on. We've been telling you for so long. These are basically electric toothbrushes, but they're super sleek like an actual normal toothbrush, and even prettier. And they mount to your mirror. They have this mount that then you can use as a cap if you are traveling like Landon to Asia. And also the brush heads are automatically delivered every 3 months for just $5. And it's just so nice and convenient and does a great job brushing. It pulses every 30 seconds to remind you when to switch sides. Mm-hmm. My son loves it. I really recommend it for kids. Like, you know how you have those ugly ones with like superheroes?
Oh, yeah.
No, we're not doing that. That's why we love Quip and why they're backed by over 20,000 dental professionals. Quip starts at just $25. And if you go to getquip.com/braincandy right now, you get your first refill pack for free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack for free at getquip.com/braincandy.
Love
the
it.
Deal.
Yes.
Okay.
I do love changing that brush head and brushing the dirty part with the brush. It's great. I love it.
It's what, you know how you just said, like, when you commented, it was because you wanted to be in control or feel in control. That's kind of how I feel about tasks like that, like cleaning out my toothbrush head.
Yeah,
or
totally.
It helps me feel in control.
Yeah, the world is chaotic, but at least my toothbrush is clean. That's how I feel about organizing every drawer, labeling things. It's fabulous.
And those small victories make a big difference, I think, in your life. My mom always used to say, your life is so daily. And I never really knew what she meant, but it's about how, like, a lot of what we do is so repetitive. But if you can make it pleasurable, it's really nice. It's a good lesson.
That's why having, with something that you use every day.
Yeah.
A toothbrush, bed sheets.
Yeah.
A water bottle. A bra. Like, make it nice, because that is part of self-care. I was watching just a clip of Marie, how do you say her last name? Kondo?
Kondo.
She was talking about her morning routine and how, she likes to have some tea in the morning. Mm-hmm. And, here I am drinking my coffee in like whatever the hell mug is, available. And I'm just like, I'm not mindful about it at all.
Sure.
And she's like sitting down at the table, and it's in a pretty teapot and with a pretty glass and a little saucer, and she's like enjoying the moment. And I don't do nearly enough of that. In fact, I was driving the other day, and I was like, I got this apple, I washed the apple, I then proceeded to eat the apple as I was driving, like thinking about a million other things. This was chewing, and I'm like, what the hell? I ate the sticker.
You didn't.
And I realized that I washed the apple with the sticker, started eating half the apple, and then still didn't realize the sticker was on there. I'm like, man, if this isn't a lesson that I need some mindfulness in my eating, I don't know what is, because I'm eating the wrapper. I'm not even paying attention. I think the other day I bit into the foil wrapping on like a Chipotle burrito too, and I'm like, Sarah, you need to slow down. You need to be mindful and enjoy these things, because your life is going by.
Yeah,
you know,
that's hard to do.
Make the daily routine a little more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
You're so right. It's that the simple pleasures that you can quickly rush through. If you don't and take the time, it will improve your quality of life.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. It's just little, 5 minutes of mindfulness. And really, 5 minutes of me drinking my coffee in the morning in like a nice mug, sitting down in a comfy area of my house, just peaceful, without like looking at my schedule or scrolling through Instagram or, checking Amazon or whatever it is. That 5 minutes without that will significantly improve the rest of your day.
But like, we talk about this a lot, and I know a lot of people do. So why do you think it's so hard?
Oh, okay. I think it's this, what do they call it? Like a hedonic treadmill is the term for it, where we want to do things that feel good. And so we get stuck in this loop of doing things that feel good, but only for a little while. Let me see what the real definition of it is. Because basically, like, everything that it's like we have two options, and this is like something that I talk to myself about and clients all the time. And it's like, you can invest. It's kind of like in putting money in the bank. You don't just like wake up one morning after putting a little bit in there and there's a bunch of money in there. It's like slow investments over time. And it's the same thing where enjoyable activities, we want a quick payout. We want something that's going to feel real good real fast. But most of the stuff that feels real good real fast does not sustain us long term. And it's a quick high followed by a quick low. And it's like, despite like really positive things or really negative things, we all kind of return back to this state right in the middle. And the trick is to find these things that don't create such big shifts, big highs or big lows, more like steadiness. And
right, but that's not as appealing to the brain.
Right. It's not as appealing. Yeah. Anyways.
Our brains are working against us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like that.
I have to find out what the real definition of that hedonic treadmill is.
I love that phrase.
Yeah.
I want to get on a hedonic treadmill. It sounds so fun.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Hold on. I had something I wanted to ask you. Oh, I had read this article about, I never thought about this, but like IKEA had put out a catalog in Israel that showed, ultra Orthodox people in their homes, with their IKEA crap. And there were no women in the catalog because, it's like awkward when you have extreme ultra Orthodox traditions,
Interesting.
But they got sued by a women's group because it was like, women are allowed in houses. In fact, they kind of like run the show. And girls, there were no girls either. It was just little boys and dads. And they got in trouble for that. Yeah, and I thought that was a really weird thing. Like, I know IKEA has to sell their chairs and stuff, and I guess I never thought about how they handle cultural situations like that. But apparently they don't handle it well because they're in hot water about it.
Except they were the first ones to do, gay couples.
Gay people. Yeah. Maybe just in certain cultures, though.
Maybe that they're really trying to cater to whatever the local market is, whether that be either side of the spectrum.
The article was saying, though, how, women in Israel that live in these communities aren't represented in any of the advertising. And so it's really difficult to be somebody who is erased from...
Yeah.
When we say representation matters?
Yes.
It's like this is an extreme example where you're just erased altogether.
I was talking to my aunt about this, she was going to a women's group, and she was like, well, I've never gone to one of these. What do you think we should talk about? It's all women who are like my age or a little bit older. I said, how about talk about visibility in the media and visibility and all that? Because what does it feel like to be an older woman and not be represented anywhere? And she was like, oh, my God, that is a thing. I do feel like that. And I was like, talk about that. That'll give you 2 hours, if not more, of material. There you go.
It's true. And you probably get used to it, but then when someone calls your attention to, you're like, this is BS.
To real quick go back to, answer the question, what is the hedonic treadmill? It's the tendency of a person to remain at a relatively stable level of happiness despite a change in fortune or achievement of major goals. So basically, as a person makes more money, expectations and desires rise in tandem, which result in no permanent gain of happiness. So we all have basically a set point. So it doesn't really fit what I was talking about, but in a little bit, it's important to know that we all kind of have this set level of happiness, and it doesn't matter what we do, what we achieve, or what we lose. We all kind of return to that set point.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like regress to the mean, but as a human.
Good and bad fortunes may temporarily affect how a person is, but most people will end up back at their normal level of happiness.
Dang.
So maybe that's what we try to do. We try to do these quick fixes to somehow change that level of happiness. And we think, but I do think that those big changes, whether it's big gain, like a big, all of a sudden you get a bunch of money, or all of a sudden you lose a job or whatever, those big changes maybe make us return to our stable level of happiness, but small changes over time could adjust that happiness.
Right.
Like being more mindful.
Yes,
or finding
that's
joy in the
right.
little things. Or because we know the things that do improve happiness are those acts of kindness towards others, practicing gratitude. And there are a few more, but envisioning your best future self, and I can't remember what the last one is. I think there are 4. But anywho, so I'm trying to tie in the term I used.
One thing that I've really bought into, like in terms of what can add joy to your life, is that idea that you should invest in experiences, not stuff.
Yes.
So like we've been doing more traveling, and like, I went to see Billy Joel, and even little stuff like just around our local area of like, we're going to go do something active today.
Suze, I saw you go rock climbing the other day.
Yeah.
Get after it, girl. You look great.
Yeah, and it was so fun, and it was something different, and it just felt way more memorable than whatever you would normally do with your Saturday afternoon.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And you connected as a family.
Yeah. And Lincoln loves it, and he's, very active, has a lot of energy, and so those types of things are really important. But they're important for everybody, and sometimes it feels like, oh, I don't feel like doing it. But, you're happy you did it.
Yep. I was thinking the same thing I tend to, like, when I'm feeling sad or feeling lonely, I tend to isolate, and that's almost like the opposite of what you should do.
Yes.
And it's why our brains tell us to do the things that it's really like we perpetuate our own
That's
situation.
What I mean. Sometimes I feel like I'm my own worst enemy.
Yeah, it's absolutely true because, so this is, and I think I've shared this a little bit on here before. It's kind of like you can think of like the brain as when you're born as like this mountain with unlimited trails to get to the top. Mm-hmm. And when you experience trauma, when you experience stress, when you experience anything, it forces your brain down this very like a dark, treacherous trail. But as you go down this trail, you learn like where the dangerous turns are. You learn like what to avoid. So you even though that's uncomfortable and even though that may not be the best way, your brain develops these things as a child as like survival skills. And so we get used to that trail and we keep going down that trail because we're like, well, I know that that's the way up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And even though it might not be the right thing or the best thing or the thing that feels good, the other way, the unknown is far more scary for our brains. And what we have to do is we have to train our brain through something like therapy and mindfulness, or sometimes with the help of somebody else or supportive environment. Go, no, here's the other trail and it's safe. And you can try to look at the situation this way. And it feels really uncomfortable at first, and people tend to just fall back into old patterns and old habits until you train that part of your brain, and until that trail becomes the one that is the most, used and most worn down and the most ingrained in the brain. But you have to almost like create new paths, and they're like new neural pathways, because the brain just goes, oh, well, this reminds me of this time and this is how we handled it before, so let's do that again, even if it's not the right way. And it's for every single little tiny thing, maybe not some huge big stressor, but even the little stuff. And so we have to learn that sometimes what feels uncomfortable is not, it just feels uncomfortable because it's not how we've been surviving our whole life. And I saw this the other day when I was feeling really sad and I was feeling, like lonely, and Landon was gone, and I was just thinking about a whole bunch of stuff. And I had a opportunity to see some kids do a dance recital for this organization that I work for, where they bring like in low SES communities, do these like amazing dance programs that, it's so beautiful. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go. It'll be fine. Like I already committed, no, like there aren't really anybody else from my school going. So I went, and it was so beautiful and so moving. And I connected with so many people and felt like humanity and love and connection, and I cried, and everybody cried, and it was so sweet, and the kids were so amazing. And I got to like see these kids that I work with, in a more like clinical setting, doing the things that like bring them joy. And I was like, okay, thank you, universe, for giving me this lesson. And I left like just like so much happier and feeling so good. And everything in my instincts said you should probably just say, and I could have framed it any way I wanted to, of like, you know what, self-care is just like staying home and taking care of yourself. No. That was just something I was telling myself. And what real self-care was putting myself out there, connecting with people, and I felt better. So
that is such a good lesson, because almost everything that I would put in the category of self-care, be it exercise or eating right or meditating or, like you said, just being social, I don't want to do.
Yeah, right.
But is necessary and important for me to maintain a whole holistic approach to wellness. Yeah. So people mistake self-care for, I'm just going to do what I want.
Right. And it's not that.
No, you should do what you need.
Yes. I think about this, like I bought a like daily journal for like mindfulness and gratitude, and I've only done like 2 days worth of it, and I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I know it's what I need. Why that's what I should be doing with my coffee. Have a nice cup of coffee in the morning.
That's a good idea.
Get my journal out. There. Now I've put it into the universe. I've said it to you people. Now I have to be accountable.
Another aspect of wellness that you should not forget is vitamins, and most of us do, and most of us don't get the vitamins we need in our food because we're, eating the stickers off the apples like Sarah.
Oh, God, so weird.
And most people aren't getting the nutrients that they need. So the way that you can fill in those gaps is with ritual vitamins. They're really tasty. They smell like mint. They taste like mint. They don't make you sick in your stomach. And they give you that D3 and the omega-3 and all of those things that women's diets need, but aren't always, found in like our thing of chocolate that we keep by our bed. No, just for example. And it's delivered right to you. Yeah. The subscription is easy to start. It's easy to snooze. And it's $1 a day to have all of the essentials that your body needs. Better health doesn't happen overnight. And right now, Ritual is offering our listeners 10% off during their first 3 months. Fill in the gaps in your diet with Essential for Women, a small step that supports a healthy foundation for your body. Visit ritual.com/braincandy. Start your ritual today. That's 10% off during the first 3 months at ritual.com/braincandy. And Sarah, we have a guest today.
Yay!
I had a fun time interviewing Kate Quinn. She wrote a wonderful novel called The Huntress. If you are in the market for a book about badass bitches,
yes,
as I call
always,
them, then you will love this. The Huntress is a historical novel. That's what Kate specializes in. And she writes about these female Russian bomber pilots.
Woo!
And it is like, oh, okay, I definitely want to be a bomber pilot now.
Just at least for the cool jacket.
I know. And like these women really existed and they flew a gazillion times more than the men and were like total badasses. And I never even heard about them until this book.
These are the stories that I want to hear.
It's so cool. And then, you know, this is a mystery and you want to know the whole, it's like page turner. And she writes from 3 different points of view. So each chapter is from a different point of view and it's really fun to read. And I'm not even a fiction gal and I really liked it. But I wanted to talk to Kate about her writing process, how she managed to write from 3 different points of view and keep it all straight, and why she wanted to write about these badass women. So welcome to the show, Kate Quinn. First of all, ma'am, congratulations on the Huntress. How you feeling?
Mostly I'm relieved because I swear to God that book nearly killed me.
I was going to ask you.
I'm relieved to have it done, and I'm really, really happy that the first reactions, at least, fingers crossed, have been good.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. I really was wondering, though, if, like, you're nuts because there are 3 timelines, and just that alone made my head spin. Like, how in the heck does a person even begin to do that?
Well, apparently my subconscious decided after the Alice Network that, 2 timelines was not enough, and I really needed to stretch myself. So 3 timelines would be a great idea. And after I had this, after I was delving in and writing away, I told all my writer friends if I ever had another brilliant idea like this again, they should chain me in the basement until it went away. And my subconscious decided to have kinder, more useful ideas.
Oh my gosh! Like, at what point were you like, "Oh no, I'm in too deep, and I just have to do this"?
Probably at about 1/3. I was thinking at that point, I loved all of my people and my timelines, but I was thinking, how am I going to make this even remotely actually book length? And the answer to that was a whole lot of cutting.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. I must have cut about 60,000 words out of this book, and that literally was just the product of a whole lot of judicious trimming and, well, a lot of work in the editing stage.
Oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine. I mean, it is phenomenal, and for the reader, the 3 timelines is such a treat, but I just was thinking of you and how laborious that seemed. But we're grateful that you did it.
Thank you.
And I was just curious because Alice Network was obviously such a big hit, and I just wondered if that was freeing to you because now like you have an audience, or if you felt like now the pressure's on and this is scary. What were you feeling?
Well, I was actually rather lucky with this book in that I had already sold it to my editor and hashed it out with them, what it was going to be about and what it was going to look like, well before the Alice Network, I think, was even published. They had picked up this book already. So by the time Alice came out and then had its really unexpected boom with the Reese Witherspoon Book Club, this book was already, I was already well into writing it.
Yeah.
And so those voices were established, the characters were talking to me, and that was a big help. It meant that I really didn't have to second guess myself of what was I going to write next. I already knew. So I will say that was really quite useful.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, because do you think that would have changed the way you approached it?
Yeah, I probably would have been more nervous. Absolutely.
Really? So it doesn't make you feel more confident and like, okay, everyone loves me, so it's fine.
No, not at all. If anything, it just makes you think I have to make this book even better. And I already had that reaction pretty much to any book I write is whatever I write next, I feel has to be better in some way. It has to stretch me. It has to do something.
Right.
So this probably just would have added even a little bit more tension to that particular feeling.
Whenever you decided to do this, was it your intention? Like, is your thing badass women? Is that like your thing, or is that just coincidence that both books have these awesome characters in that way?
No, that's what I look for. It's my joke, and really it's not even exactly a joke, is that I look for the kind of women who, historically speaking, are so involved in something so cool and so, gobsmackingly great that you can imagine them, striding along in slow motion in front of an explosion in a movie trailer with Sia's Unstoppable playing in the background. That's the kind of feeling I want to have when I read about them. And that's the kind of person I want to find when I'm looking for a new heroine.
Well, so how did you discover that the Russians really did have these all-female bomber groups?
Well, that was some lucky reading I had done some years ago, and I had already known a little bit about it and really thought that was quite cool.
Yeah.
And then I had the idea for this book, that I wanted to have the hunt for a Nazi war criminal going on from both ends of the hunt, as it were. On one end, you have the people who are looking for someone and they have no idea where she is. And on the other end, you have people who know someone who they have no idea what her background is. Mm-hmm. And then as those hunts progress toward each other, they get closer and closer to the finish. And I liked that story a lot, but I thought it needed something more. It needed one more element, and I wasn't sure what. And for some reason, the Night Witches clicked back into my head, and I thought, that's it. If I can find a way to jigsaw those pieces together, I've really got something here. And after quite a lot of jigsaw work, I managed to find a way to make those stories sort of all braid together.
Well, and how did you, when you're approaching this idea of like Nazi hunting, for lack of a better term, how do you go about learning this is what actually happened and then applying it to your story?
Well, fortunately, there are quite a number of really wonderful books about war crimes investigation teams and the process that they went through, the ways they were different, the ways they were similar. And I really relied on those. There were some wonderful sources. And not only that, but there are also a lot of trial records that have been carefully kept from when various criminals were put on trial. So we have testimony from their own mouths. We have paperwork. And if there was anything I really learned was that Nazi hunting sounds very, very glamorous, very Hollywood, very high speed and exciting. But really what it was a lot of legwork. It was a lot of paperwork, and, paperwork lasts. That's the thing about it. So fortunately, there was quite a lot of source material as far as records I could look at, and a lot of interest in newspapers and so forth about the people who were found. And that was really what I looked at when I was trying to craft that part of the story.
Well, at the end in your author's notes, you talk about how, oftentimes they wouldn't always be even put to trial because of apathy and all kinds of other things. I found that so shocking. I thought everyone was in agreement that if we found these people, they should be, put on trial.
Well, there really wasn't. And, we tend to also have the idea that, Nuremberg was the big clean sweep. Everybody who was guilty was put on trial. And that is not the case. There just simply wasn't the manpower or the money or the time for that kind of undertaking. There is one case which I find just, horrendously ironic, where one of the trials, the question of how many of the guilty of the Einsatzgruppen killers they could put on trial, it was, we have 22 spots in the defendant's bench.
No!
Which 22 names are you going to pick?
You're kidding.
Oh, it's been documented. So literally 22 names went on trial. And then what about the rest of them? A lot of them went home. That's all there is to it. They went home. And then they might be tracked down later. but maybe they wouldn't be, because that all depends, again, on who's willing to do the tracking. So that's part of it, was just simply, it was such a huge job. Once they had caught the big fish, and not even all the big fish, it took decades for some of the big fish, like, for example, Adolf Eichmann to be found, since a lot of them had fled. But once they had caught a number of the big fish, who caught all the little people? I mean, there were a lot of little people involved in the horrors of the Holocaust and in the final solution, and in other situations such as the murder of unarmed airmen who had been downed behind enemy lines. People were involved in this, but there were so many little people, and there wasn't the manpower to hunt them all down or to find them, or even the interest in putting them to trial, because by this point, not only is the world completely exhausted by war and they want to put it behind them and they don't want to have anything to do with it anymore, but also at this point, people are starting to be worried about the Soviet Union instead. And there became this idea that, like, why are you still talking about Nazis? The Third Reich is done. We need to be worried about the Soviet Union now. So all of these factors came into play when it came to immediately post-war, the hunt for war criminals. Now, once a few decades had passed, you started to get to the 70s and 80s. That was when, the Soviet Union was on the decline. And also, I think there was the sense, too, that people started to realize that a lot of the witnesses and a lot of the, defendants were also aging from World War II. And so we needed to try to address the situation of bringing them to justice sooner rather than later. But in the period immediately after the war was done, you really saw apathy after just a few years, and after the Nuremberg trials were finished.
Wow.
Which in themselves dragged out a few years.
That is shocking information, and I really wouldn't have known if you hadn't written about that at the end there. Whenever you were doing your research for the book, was anything standing out to you in terms of, like, you found this really cool fact or something that you didn't know and you just had to include it?
Most of the things about the Night Witches really fell into that particular category, because I ran across a really wonderful book that was put together, which was, I think in the 90s, a series of interviews with the surviving women who had been part of these all-female regiments of flyers. And really a startling number of them had survived to be quite old. And so these are their stories in their own words, in their own voices. And so many of the things that I ended up putting into the book were things that I drew from their real narrative, which were astonishing to me because they were so matter of fact and so low key as they described the most jaw-dropping things, like, going for 3 years on about 4 hours of sleep per night because their bombing runs were so onerous, or the fact that they were popping stimulants to keep awake, and even that wasn't enough to keep them awake on bombing regiments. So they used to trade, the navigator and the pilot used to trade nap times to and from the bombings. One would sleep on the way there, and the other would fly the plane, and then on the way back, the other one would sleep, and then the other would fly the plane, because they knew it was better to, get cat naps in the air at nighttime in an open cockpit plane than to risk falling asleep.
Oh my God. That is crazy.
Or the fact that they describe, climbing out on the wing of a plane midair to lay down along the wing and push off a bomb that it got stuck on the bombing rack below. That was described too. And I was looking at that and just like, you women are all crazy. You're all completely crazy. But, my God, I respect you and I respect the hell out of you. So I've got to write about this as soon as I can.
And they were kind of acting like it was no big deal.
Yeah. They were completely matter of fact. And it was wonderful to see the pictures of them in this particular book, because it was, you'd see the pictures of these young women in their flight overalls and their big smiles, so young. And then you'd see the picture of the babushka in her 80s, who has the cardigan and the sensible hair and, like a hero of the Soviet Union star pinned on her, on her cardigan collar.
Wow.
And it was just, wonderful juxtaposition.
What a cool story. And there was a point in the book where the woman was saying she had gone on hundreds of these bombing runs, and the males they were only to do a few. And was that accurate, where there's like a huge difference between what the women were doing and what the men were doing?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that the women were very, very driven to improve their record at any cost. And it was true that the men used to tell them, it's like, you better slow down. The more you fly, the less likely it is you're going to live. And, they weren't wrong there. They had a lot of casualties. But the women were very, very fierce about their record and persistent that they had to be perfect, to be able to be allowed to do what they did. So they developed a sort of conveyor belt, refueling routine that meant they could get a plane on the ground, rearmed, refueled, and back in the air in less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
And that meant that they could really improve their flying time. Their pilots were literally taking their dinners in the cockpit in that 10 minutes before they could go back in the air. They weren't stopping for meals. They weren't stopping for anything. So that meant that their records were better, comparatively speaking, than any other of the comparable night bomber regiments.
Wow. They are badasses.
I mean, yeah, they really were.
That's amazing. One of the characters in the book, Jordan, she's a badass in her own way. And I was kind of thinking about how she had some suspicions about things going on in her life. And, she was always conflicted about whether to trust her gut or to, say that maybe she just has a crazy imagination. And I think that a lot of women have that same back and forth, maybe internal monologue. And I'm wondering, what it was like to write that and what made you play it like that?
Well, I had a delicate sort of tightrope to walk with her because Jordan, my American heroine, is living side by side with a woman, her new German stepmother, who she has some suspicions about. And no spoilers. I mean, whether she's the guilty one or not, but definitely this is a woman who has some secrets. And it was the tightrope there of, I didn't want people to think Jordan was stupid for not seeing what the readers might think of as being the obvious. But at the same time, nothing is obvious in a life when you're living it. And so it became a balance between having her be smart and observant about what are the things that seem to be off in this situation. And what are the realities of what happens when you really try to apply common sense to what you see in front of you and say, well, what's more likely? Is it more likely that someone is, an evil war criminal, or is it more likely that they have secrets but that they're of a more mundane variety? Occam's razor usually says it's more likely that something is the simpler explanation rather than the wild explanation.
Yeah.
And it is true that women quite often do have that back and forth in their head of, it's like when people saying, well, women women are fanciful. They have a wild imagination. They make things up. We all have that in our heads too, and try to fight against it.
Well, I just loved that. And I loved that, she was reasonable, but then she never sort of let somebody tell her what to believe. And I thought that was really cool. And then I also loved how, I don't know if this is how you see it, but I think Jordan found her superpowers kind of. And for some people that might be, being a bomber. And for other people, it might be taking beautiful pictures like Jordan did throughout the book. And I just kind of thought that was a cool message that everybody has a superpower, and it might be less exciting than somebody else's, but it's still super. I like that about her.
Yeah, that was the idea. And partly speaking, Jordan was in one part supposed to be sort of the ordinary girl Friday, as opposed to my other heroine, who is, a night bomber pilot with the nickname of a night witch. You just can't get more superhero than that. You really can't. So Jordan had to be the girl that, most readers could empathize with a little more, in the sense that they could see themselves in her. She's the bright, interested high school girl with an imagination who is struggling like many girls do today, and certainly back in the late 1940s, to balance the expectations of her family with her own desires for an independent life and career.
I think she's so cool.
Yeah, so it's the idea that, certainly these struggles keep going on for women now, and there's certainly an even bigger problem in the, white picket fence post-war suburban America. So I wanted to explore some problems that were a little bit more relatable for the average reader, as well as giving them, a sort of badass like my Night Witch heroine whose daily problems are something like, can I manage 13 bombing runs in sub-zero weather on 3 cups of coffee, which the average person, can admire, but perhaps not empathize with in terms of our own experience.
Right. I think that's such a cool balance, though, between the extremes in that way. I just thought they were great. And then I was wondering about the audiobook version, because I have since learned that your audiobooks people go crazy for. And I didn't know that because I always just read the hard copy. First of all, do you listen to yours in the audio format?
I don't listen to my own books in audio, just simply because it almost makes me self-conscious. It's weird. It's just strange to see it, unrolling like a movie in someone else's voice. But I have listened to quite a few clips here and there.
Okay.
Because frankly, for the Alice Network, my narrator, Saskia Marlavelle, did such a wonderful job. She was just so great. And she actually was nominated for Best Female Narrator for a novel for 2008 or 2018, I think. No, it might have been 2017. I'm sorry, I forget. But anyway, that's basically the equivalent of the Audies are the equivalent of the Oscars, but for audiobooks. So that was a really great thing. And I'm really delighted that Saskia is also going to be narrating the Huntress, and actually I think has already completed her narration work on that.
That is so cool.
Because I know she will do a great job on that. And the minute I had this book done and people started talking audio, I was emailing Saskia and asking her, how's your Russian accent? Please tell me you can do one. And she said, my Russian accent is terrific, and I hope I can do your next book. And I said, I will beg for you if you have any room in your schedule. Unfortunately, she did.
Wow. And is that typical that the author can maybe weigh in about who should do it?
I didn't choose Saskia originally. I didn't know her, but I think I'm trying to stretch back. For the Alice Network, they sent me a couple of different audio clips, one for her and one for the other narrator who was a possibility. And they asked if I had any input about which one I liked better, and I liked her voice better. The other one was also wonderful, but I just liked Saskia's voice. So I said, hey, if we can grab her, I'd love that. And that turned out to be fine. And then I actually met Saskia at a event in New York City where we did a nice panel together about, how to do a book and how me from the writing end, her from the audio end, and she was delightful. So we kept in touch after that. And then by the time I had the Huntress done, I was very insistent, and I weighed in as soon as I could about please, let's get her back if at all possible.
Do you ever worry
the audio makes a difference a lot to people?
Yeah, and people just went so bananas for Alice Network and the audio format, so I was just curious about it. And I wonder, if I were the author, whether I would be fearful that the narrator would read it differently than I wrote it, intonation or whatever. Does that cross your mind, or you just trust the process?
You worry about getting a bad narrator. I mean, one that's not very good. But if I have a good narrator, I trust them. And it comes down to, of course, they're going to make some different choices maybe than I would. But, on the other hand, I'm not an actress. So I know that the choices she makes to bring a book to life are probably going to be better than the ones I would make if they asked me to read my own book aloud. So I'm willing to, trust her with the process and trust her own process and see what happens.
That's so cool. And are you the kind of gal that'll rest on your laurels, or are you just diving into the next thing?
I am diving into the next thing. I mean, I'm getting ready for the release of the Huntress, but I'm also quite deep into a new book, at least the opening stages of it, and have a whole lot of research. And I'm looking forward to getting back to that as soon as I'm done with some promo stuff.
Is there a stage of the process from, inception to conception to the promotion of the thing that's your favorite?
I like the stage when I'm just when I'm doing my first draft and drafting along and enjoying the process without needing to worry yet about how long it's getting or how it's, any plotting process, hopefully if it's going smoothly. I enjoy that part. And I do enjoy the first stages of editing when I'm sort of smoothing my own stuff out, because that's not as terrifying as a blank page. You just have pages you need to smooth out and, hone and polish, and that's fun too. But, deep editing stage can be scary, especially if you realize there are big problems that you need to fix, and there almost always are because nobody's perfect. And the initial stage when I'm trying to research and sort of bash a project together to try to make it fit into an actual story and not just sort of a vague collection of ideas that might be interesting. That also can be a little on the hair-raising side.
Yeah.
But I do like drafting, and I first stage drafting when it's flowing smooth, and I do like first stage editing.
Right. So maybe like the most creative elements are the most fun and the least businessy, maybe.
Yeah, and there is a lot of business about being a writer, just the promo stuff and all kinds of the technical things about bringing a book out. And I'm very grateful for this job I have. I never will stop being grateful. It's a wonderful job, but it's not to say that it's all just sitting in a cozy, bustling little cafe in my black turtleneck waiting for the muse to strike and, sipping my perfect latte. And, it's all looks like, something in a movie, because it's a lot of hair tearing in there too from time to time.
Well, we're grateful that you do it, and the book is tremendous, and I hope you get nothing but rave reviews and everybody just doting praise upon you.
Well, I hope so too. Although, that's never the case. Every book will have naysayers, and everybody's entitled to their opinion of whatever they read. So if they don't like it, I hope they will be kind and move on to something else then that they do like better. And if they do like it, I hope they will write me a nice review. And then, hopefully buy 5 copies for all their friends and family for Christmas.
And I'm not worried. I know that our listeners are going to love it, and I loved it. So congratulations on another wonderful book.
Thank you very much.
You're off the hook. Thank you. I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks.
Well, me too. I'm kind of in the 6-week stage down to the release, so it's starting to feel very close and very scary at this point. But, gotta keep going.
Sympathize, but it's awesome, and you should be really proud.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm really glad we could do the podcast today.
Yay. I'll send the link when it's up. Thank you so much, Kate.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.